She flew 1,000 miles to kill, the social media block that ended in murder. The introduction, a digital dead end. We've all done it. It's a muscle memory we don't even think about anymore. Someone annoys you, harasses you, or maybe they just remind you of a past you're trying to forget. So you tap a button, block. It's supposed to be a digital wall, a boundary. It says, "You cannot reach me. You cannot see me. You do not exist in my world." But what happens when the person on the other side of that screen refuses to disappear? What happens when a digital block triggers a real-world rage so consuming, so violent, that it bridges a 1,000-mile gap? In July of 2022, 23-year-old Kayla Hodgson was living her life in Tamarac, Florida. She was young, she was loved, and she had just started dating someone new. She did what any of us would do to avoid drama. She hit the block button on her boyfriend's ex. She thought that was the end of it. She didn't know that 1,200 miles away, in Queens, New York, that block didn't shut down a connection. It ignited a fuse. This is the story of Sakiyna Thompson. It's a story about the terrifying fragility of safety in the digital age. It is a story about a woman who boarded a plane, donned a disguise, and flew to Florida, not for a vacation, but for an execution. Welcome back to the Justice and Injustice channel. Today we're analyzing a case that concluded in October 2024. A case that demonstrates that sometimes the most dangerous thing to do is try to ignore a monster. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. The new life and the old flame. Let's set the scene. Tamarac, Florida. It's a quiet suburban extension of the Fort Lauderdale area. It's the kind of place you move to when you want peace. And that's what Kayla Hodgson had. At 23 years old, she had her whole life ahead of her. Friends described her as the life of the party energetic kind, the girl who lit up the room. But in the summer of 2022, Kayla's life was intersecting with a complicated past she had nothing to do with. She had started seeing a man. And as is often the case in modern dating, this man had history. Enter Sakiyna Thompson. Thompson was 31 years old. She lived in Springfield Gardens, Queens. And she was not letting go. She was the ex-girlfriend. Now, usually, the ex is just a footnote. Maybe some awkward texts, maybe a little stalking on Instagram. But for Sakiyna Thompson, the breakup wasn't a conclusion. It was an insult. And when she found out her ex had moved on with the younger, vibrant Kayla Hodgson, that insult became an obsession. We know through court records and the massive digital trail left behind that Thompson was watching. She was monitoring. And Kayla? She knew it. She sensed the toxicity coming from this woman she had barely met, if at all. So Kayla did the sensible thing. She blocked Sakiyna Thompson on social media. To a rational person, being blocked is a hint. It's a sign to move on. But investigators would later piece together that for Thompson, this was the catalyst. It wasn't a wall. It was a challenge. Thompson wasn't just sitting in Queens stewing. She was pregnant. 2 months pregnant, carrying the child of the very man Kayla was now dating. The mix of hormones, heartbreak, and a pathological jealousy created a lethal cocktail. She decided that if she couldn't see Kayla online, she was going to see her in person. The hunter travels. This is where the case shifts from a crime of passion to something cold, calculated, and terrifyingly premeditated. If you kill someone in the heat of the moment during an argument, the law looks at it one way. But when you buy a plane ticket, that is the definition of premeditation. Days before the murder, Thompson books a flight. She leaves New York. She travels down the East Coast to South Florida. Now, imagine her mindset during that flight. That is 3 hours in the air. 3 hours to think. 3 hours to cool down. 3 hours to turn back. She didn't turn back. She lands in Florida. But she doesn't go to her ex's house immediately. She waits. She plans. On July 13th, 2022, around 5 a.m. The sun isn't even fully up yet. The Tamarac village apartments are silent. Most people are asleep. It's the safest you should ever feel in your own bed before the world wakes up. But outside, Sakiyna Thompson is making her move, and she's not walking in as herself. Surveillance cameras capture a figure. This is chilling. She's wearing a wide-brimmed hat, pulled low. She has a COVID-19 mask covering the bottom half of her face. She's wearing gloves. Ask yourself, why do you wear gloves in the Florida summer heat? Why do you wear a disguise to visit someone you just want to talk to? She wasn't there to talk. She was there to hunt. She used a fake profile on a ride-share app likely Uber or Lyft to get to the complex. This is another layer of planning. She's trying to exist as a ghost. No digital footprint, no face, no name. She approaches Kayla's door. The confrontation and the carnage. What happened inside that apartment was the subject of intense debate during the trial that just wrapped up. But the physical evidence tells a story that words almost can't do justice to. Thompson gains entry. We know they encountered each other. According to Thompson, later testimony, which we have to take with a massive grain of salt, she claimed she just wanted to talk woman to woman. She claimed she went there to discuss the situation civilly. But remember the disguise. Remember the time, 5 a.m., inside the apartment, the conversation, if there even was one, disintegrated instantly. The violence that followed was extreme. This wasn't a shove. This wasn't a single punch. Sakiyna Thompson pulled a knife. Kayla Hodgson, 23 years old, fought for her life. The autopsy photos, which caused jurors to visibly recoil in the courtroom, showed the brutality. She was stabbed, not once, dozens of times. The prosecution described it as a jealous rage. The attack was frenzied. It was personal. And then, Sakiyna Thompson did something that reveals a level of coldness that is hard to comprehend. She was covered in blood. The scene was chaotic. Instead of running immediately, she cleaned up. Thompson testified that she was walking in the blood. She took off her own clothes soaked in the evidence of her crime, and she went into Kayla's closet. She put on Kayla's clothes. Think about that for a second. She murdered this young woman, and then she dressed herself in her victim's clothing. She tried to wipe down the scene. She gathered the evidence, her bloody clothes, the weapon, and she walked out of that apartment. She left Kayla dying, or already dead, on the floor of her sanctuary. And she walked out into the Florida morning, disguised now not just by a mask, but by the very identity of the woman she had just erased. The flight and the capture. Thompson didn't stick around. She discarded the evidence, though not well enough, and made her way back to New York. She fled the state, thinking perhaps the distance would save her again. But in 2022, you cannot vanish. The Broward Sheriff's Office homicide detectives arrived at the scene. They found a horror show. But they also found clues. They pulled the surveillance video. They saw the woman in the wide-brimmed hat. They traced the fake Uber account. You can use a fake name, but the phone data? The IP address? The payment method? That always leads back to someone. They tracked her movements. They saw the flight records. Sakiyna Thompson, the ex-girlfriend. It didn't take a genius to connect the dots, but it took precise police work to build the case. Flight records placed her in Florida. Cell towers pinged her phone near the apartment. On August 3, 2022, less than a month after the murder, police in New York moved in. Sakiyna Thompson was arrested in Queens. She was extradited back to Florida, the state she had flown to as a hunter, now returning as a prisoner. The trial. I blacked out. The trial began in October 2024. The stakes were maximum. First-degree murder. In Florida, that means life in prison. The defense strategy was bold. They couldn't deny she was there. The DNA, the video, the flight records were irrefutable. So they went for self-defense. Thompson took the stand. This is always a Hail Mary move in a murder trial. She looked at the jury and told them a story that contradicted all the physical preparations. She said, "I blacked out." She claimed that when she got into the apartment, Kayla was the aggressor. Thompson told the court, quote, "I killed her because she took the glass from the hookah and slashed me across my stomach. I felt like she was trying to hurt my baby." She tried to spin the narrative. She was the pregnant, protective mother. Kayla was the violent threat. She claimed she saw red, blacked out, and when she woke up, she was standing in blood. But the prosecution, led by Assistant State Prosecutor Tanya Johnson, tore this apart. They pointed to the hat, the mask, the gloves. They asked the jury, if you are going to talk peacefully, why the disguise? If it was self-defense, why did you fly 1,000 miles to show up at her door at 5 a.m.? And most damning of all, why did you clean up? Why did you wear her clothes? Why did you fly home and hide? Those are not the actions of a traumatized victim of self-defense. Those are the actions of a killer covering their tracks. Prosecutor Johnson's closing argument was haunting. She told the jury, being violated in your own home is a scary thing. What's even scarier is being attacked, being brutally murdered in your own home, and that person getting away with it. The jury didn't buy the blackout story. They didn't buy the self-defense claim. On October 15, 2024, the verdict came down. Guilty. First-degree murder. Conclusion. The final block. Sakiyna Thompson now faces life behind bars. Her child will be born in the prison system, or raised by others, another innocent life destroyed by this rage. Kayla Hodgson's family finally has peace, but they don't have Kayla. Her mother, Carrie, said they are grateful justice was served, but nothing brings back the vibrant 23-year-old who made the simple mistake of dating the wrong man, SX. It's a terrifying reminder for all of us. We live in a world where we think we can curate our safety with a block button. But for some people, the silence of being blocked screams louder than any words ever could. Stay safe. Watch who you let into your life, both online and off. And remember, sometimes the danger isn't a stranger in the dark. It's the past, refusing to stay buried. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for facing this chasm between justice and injustice.